This week, the row over ritual child abuse in Rochdale is back in the headlines, with an inquiry about to produce its interim report. But is there really any such thing as ritual and satanic abuse? Police in many different forces deny it exists. So tonight, Dispatches travels to Nottingham, the city that first witnessed these extraordinary and horrifying claims. For the first time, foster parents and social workers tell their story, and the children have a voice at last. In the first dispatch of the new season, journalist Beatrix Campbell asks, why are we so reluctant to listen to the children?
Does it hurt? Yes, I cry, but he calls me names. What does he call you? Bitch and bastard.
In 1987, social services and police swooped on the Broxtowe estate on the edge of Nottingham. A dozen children in a large extended family were taken into care. Suspicions of cruelty and sexual abuse had been aroused by their cousins, already in care. The children began a new life with foster mothers.
It always sticks in my mind something she said. It was when she was on about different people coming to her house. She used to refer to them as her dad's mates, actually. And I can always remember her saying, she was showing me, demonstrating, she lay across the settee, a nightie up, her legs wide apart, showing me that this is how she had to lie. And then 2, 3, 4 people would abuse her up her vagina, and she pointed to that. And then she'd say, and they said, turn over. They didn't even know my name. And she said it with such, oh, I don't know, it was just so sad. I couldn't believe it. It used to bring tears to my eyes sometimes.
Well, he was continually talking about his willy being pulled or being hurt, or adults putting their willy up his bottom. And that was continually, day after day, he would talk about things like that. So it wasn't just a one-off experience with him. You could tell it had happened on numerous occasions.
So the children were safe. But from whom and from what exactly? A protection plan as well as a criminal prosecution needed evidence to take to the courts. Scattered across the city, the cousins now provided it, separately and simultaneously. Their experiences were recorded in this unique archive. The children did the drawings and the foster mothers did the writing, faithfully transcribing everything in the children's own words.
Witches have hats on and shout. They dress up as witches, and they throw a doll on the floor, and they all tread on it. She used to say little bits, and then those bits would get a bit longer, and then the story would get a bit longer, and so it went on till eventually she just came out with such a long something that had happened to her, and she just went through the whole lot, and it pieced together all the other bits that she'd originally said. But it had to be so. She just couldn't have made up in detail as she had done a whole story like that. She had to be reliving in her mind what had happened to her.
And what was it that she told you?
She told us about groups of people dancing round in witches' costumes, abusing her. There was, at that time, she said it was a doll on the floor in the middle of this ring, that they had to jump on it. And just things like that. And in a church, and drinking blood, and just all together. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Unbelievable?
Unbelievable to me.
What kind of things were they telling you?
Fears, different things about clowns and sharks and...
Clowns and sharks?
Yeah, parties where they all got hurt. Animals got sacrificed. They drank the blood.
What was your response then when you heard this kind of stuff?
Well, I believed him straight away because of the fear I'd seen within him. And the fear that I'd noticed just being around generally with him. If anything upset him, somebody was dressed up, There was a real big fear there with him.
This is in the morning in the kitchen. When Mr. Poo Pants goes to the witch parties, well, he's horrible. Why? Because he's the boss. We have to call him Hyman. Yes, and Mr. Brown, because they say, children, come here. Children, come here? What do you mean? Well, Mr. Poo Pants says to me, number 1, come here. We have numbers, but Mr. Poo Pants and Mr. Brown don't have numbers.
What was it that made you finally make sense of the kind of bits and pieces of things that the little boys that were with you were telling you?
I think firstly was when he put all the cushions on the floor and put the teddy bear into the middle and got me to dance round like they did at the parties and jump on and off the teddy bear. And this was one of the parties where bad things happened, and obviously the teddy bear was a baby that was going to be killed.
Almost a year after the swoop, Social Services set up a special unit, Team 4. It didn't do formal interviews with the children, but planned their future protection.
The investigation had to be organised in a much different way from before. It had to be very well researched, it had to be strategically planned. And that was not only because of Cleveland, that was the nature of the case. It already looked very different in terms of the amount of material we had to look at. Not the type of material, because we didn't know then what we were going to be seeing. But after that, what we were having to do was to get the children to tell their stories in a natural way, in the way that children describe things. And that was by using the foster parents. They were seen as our only resource, really.
I mean, I've been supporting foster parents with children in foster homes for 12 years, and lots of children, for example, are frightened of the bath and water. But I'd never heard before children that were frightened of the bath because they thought that it had got blood in it or sharks in it. So that was something different. I think the other thing is that their fears were phobic. The strength of their fears and anxieties about spiders, the dark, the moon, Father Christmas, other sorts of fantasy characters like that was a strength that we'd not experienced before. And sometimes he said, "What are you doing?"
Play sessions like this were about supporting the children's efforts to explain.
Hold his hand there very gently. Hello. Right. What's he saying?
Oh! I know you were worried when we got in the car this morning about things.
Yeah.
If you want to have a talk in your telephone and tell me all about it.
One little boy was reassured that if he told this social worker his secrets, she would pass them on to the judge. They rigged up toy telephones and tapes so that he could talk and talk and talk, which he did.
They'd been grossly sexually abused within their family. And that within that system of continuous, compulsive abuse in every way, their whole being had been intruded upon and destroyed in a way. Every opportunity was used to abuse them. That had brought them into contact with other people who'd come into the family, friends, lodgers, what have you. And so there'd been a scale of abuse that was quite incredible. In addition, the children were without doubt talking about things which appeared to refer to criminal acts, like taking drugs, being photographed, seeing the naughty films on the television, seeing themselves on the television, and then this other bizarre type of abuse. And I think we felt that they'd been involved in some sort of ring, they'd been taken to places where they'd been abused, sometimes photographed, and that there'd been people there who'd been using some sort of belief system to further abuse them. I think what we still don't know is which was the most important, which was the primary system that these children were involved in. Were they involved in some sort of satanic group which abused them in order to perpetuate their beliefs, or were they involved in some sort of pornographic ring which used this sort of satanic belief to further frighten the children? It's very difficult to know. We don't know. But I think we're all clear that they've been involved with all of those systems.
Mary Midgley was another advisor, but she didn't endorse Newson's suspicions.
Well, it's a notion that would need a great deal of evidence, it seems to me. It would have to be shown, wouldn't it, that the people in charge, the social workers or the foster parents, actually held these beliefs in the first place. And that's something that could very easily be established, because evangelical Christians of that kind do not make any secrets of their views. It would only be someone who was extremely enthusiastic and unmistakably holding those views who would do such a thing. Then the process known as brainwashing is a very long and complicated business. It is not to be achieved merely by telling somebody something. You starve them, you know, and you beat them and you neglect them, and then you cherish them when they say things and so forth. It needs a team, in fact, to brainwash. It's an industrial problem.
My name's Judith Dawson, and I'm a child abuse consultant from Nottinghamshire Social Services. In that job, I spend most of my time having to help my department respond to families who've had problems, particularly involving the abuse of children. Over the past 7 or 8 years, social services departments have had to come to terms with the fact that children have not only been physically abused within their families, but they've also been sexually abused. And that's been a very painful thing to get used to. We've had to be taken beyond belief, because what we've learned is that children are not only sexually abused in some families, but that they're also ritualistically abused. That means that we have learned that some families, some adults, get involved with satanic groups whose main aim is to destroy everything that is good, everything that's good about human life and human values. And one particular target in that would be that they should hurt and defile children. As you're probably aware, Christ said, "Touch not one hair of this child's head." Satanists believe that they should do the opposite of that.
People like
we had children being grossly abused. They recognised that and they weren't detracted from following what they thought they had to do. I think they did some tremendous work.
We shared the information very quickly with the police. I mean, they'd been involved from the January, so they'd read all the information in the foster parents' diaries about what the children had said. So they'd seen the indicators that we'd missed as well. And then we said, look, this is what the children are saying. This is very clearly describing ceremonies in which children are abused. And they immediately said, there is no witchcraft in Nottingham. I don't want to hear about this. You'll lose the case for us. Just concentrate on the sexual abuse. We don't want to know about anything else.
What did the police do then when they found themselves with a judge who believed the material, who didn't believe were being discredited by this strange information?
They were very disparaging about wardship proceedings and said that they thought it was very strange that you could present this sort of information. And they were scathing of the judgment. They dealt with myself and the team in a manner that was surprising. They said that they would discredit us personally and professionally if we continued with this. And on one occasion, at the end of March or April 1988, I was asked to go and meet with the police at Ladbroke Police Station. And I met there with the superintendent and 2 other officers and was told that I couldn't leave that room until I agreed with them that there was no witchcraft and that I wasn't to write anything else down that the children said.
9 people were jailed in a criminal trial in January 1989. Although it was Britain's biggest child abuse trial, it was all kept in the family. But the children's information was corroborated. There were other people and places.
I'll tell you what happened at the house on the hill.
We'd have parties with a table, and it used to have a red cloth on it, and candlesticks, and a goblet, and then they'd cut whatever it was up,
What do you mean, whatever it was?
Well, it all depends. If it was a certain day in the month, it would be an animal. And other times it would be children. And then if they died, the men used to go and dig out the graves in the graveyard across the back. Put the body in a black bag and dump it in the graveyard. And just recover it.
Whereabouts in the graveyard?
On top of other people's graves.
When Mary Midgley met the foster parents, she was doing what the inquiry itself didn't do. It never, despite their invitations, met with these women.
It was just terrific. Although you are experienced foster parents who have had some pretty awkward kids previously, nothing like this had come your way.
Well, we didn't know anything about witchcraft or
Who
whatever.
does?
Well, I don't know, but we certainly didn't. We sure do now, but...
It wasn't your scene.
No, not really.
Several children told their foster mothers there were tunnels in this cemetery. The police and the inquiry said that's wrong. There aren't any.
I'd never been to the cemetery before, and when we got there and went through the gates, she just seemed to know the way, and I just followed her and let her go and see where she took me. And she just eventually took me round right across the other side of the cemetery and up a small path, and then we seemed to come to this great big, well, what looked like a coliseum type place, really, is the only way I can describe it.
Several children have talked about this place with terror. They say that adults took them into tunnels, made them take their clothes off, and then did horrible things to them. The children have provided a cool, clear chronicle of ceremonies that were about sacrifice, sexual abuse, power, and children's pain. The police say they've investigated all the locations and found nothing. Well, the children pointed the way, and the police seemed unable or unwilling to follow them. This is a tunnel. Oh, goodness me. It's very, very cold in here. Nothing on the right-hand side. What's on the wall? Looks like little charred bits. This looks like a little altar even. And it's got signs on it. The kind of signs that you see all over the place, but are also part of satanic hieroglyphics. Oh my goodness me. A cross, another symbol over there on the left. This does look like an altar. Right, let's go back the way. What's this? Oh my goodness, what's just this here? To our right, one of these ledges. There seem to be several ledges where you might put something. What is this? That is a candle, and it's got the remains. There, bits of burnt paper. That's a candle in there. And you can see the remains, the effect of the flame on the ceiling of it, with this little alcove. A little flat candle. The cemetery lodge. We've been given information that if we were to come here, we might be able to get in easily and that we might find things of interest. So we've come to explore a property that, like the cemetery's tunnels, should have been fully investigated by the police. This is a sex contact book. Oh, what's this? Flagellation. A story of corporal punishment. The evils of flogging, birching. Ugh. Toys for cemeteries.
Oh, that's just detail about the transfer of 50-year graves.
Now, why would anybody have a personal video guide in a cemetery? Who's going to be using a video camera in a graveyard? What for? Who do they want to take films of? Right, what else is there? Just some bits and pieces of council material. Oh my goodness me. Why are they interested in fostering children? This is details about what fostering is. The kind of allowances, schemes that the council runs to take care of children who might need to be somewhere other than their homes. This is an application, kind of guide, how to go about getting children. What a very odd collection of things to have in a graveyard. Video.